Hey, I'm Olivia,
I'm Regan.
and you're listening to Soarin Around WDW. Okay, so we are back this week with a fun episode that we had to delay a little bit because of Halloween content and big news. So this was supposed to come out a couple weeks ago. So thank you to everybody who had submitted some information from the Instagram. We're going to call you out during this, so we appreciate your participation. But first, just want to say, obviously you can hear in my voice that I am getting over a cold. You could probably hear it last episode as well. So bear with me, as my voice was almost totally gone a couple days ago and is getting better. But we do have a couple of news topics that we wanted to talk about that happened here in the last week. So first, the Halloween golf cart parade at Fort Wilderness happened this past week. And it's actually, I don't remember it being as cool in past years, or I don't know, maybe I just haven't paid a lot of attention, but there were some really cool floats or golf carts.
No, I've paid attention to that every year for a while. A lot of people go like all out for that golf cart parade.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it was really impressive. I saw a Darth Vader themed one that was really cool.
Yeah.
I saw a Haunted Mansion one themed one that was really cool. Like, people go all out for that. So seems like it's like actually like a pretty like annual event that people try for. So
Can you go over there and just watch that like as a spectator, or do you have to be staying there? Do you know?
I have no idea. Maybe they would let you in to watch it, but I think they're pretty strict on like letting people in the gate unless you have a reservation for dining or
True.
Like a reservation to stay there. So
Which I've never stayed at the
What?
campground. I've never stayed there. Have you?
At the campground?
Yeah.
I haven't stayed there, but I've visited Dad there.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because he's stayed there with his camper a few times.
So
Yeah, I've only been there for Hoop-de-Doo, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I feel like there's a lot of really cool stuff there. Like, they just have a lot of more, like, community-type events. I guess, like, similar to a campground.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that looked super cool. I was like, ooh, that might be fun to try sometime. But now the cabins are extremely expensive because they're DVC. So that makes it a little more difficult. And then they also, of course, on Halloween night, switched over from Halloween decor to Christmas decor.
Yep.
And that is one of the coolest things. If you guys haven't watched, I think it's on Disney Plus. It used to be just on like Disney Channel. But how they do that, how they start like at midnight and then go, all night to switch everything over. It's really cool, and obviously takes a ton of manpower and work and planning.
That video is also just kind of floating around on social media as well, or at least a shorter video of it. And it's essentially just like a time lapse of how, like you said, like how many bodies they had needed to get through, or like to do that and get through it. And like they switch everything out. And if you've been to Disney during any holiday, you know that there's a ton of decorations.
Everywhere.
Probably more so for Christmas than for Halloween, and yet they do that entire transformation in one night, which is just super impressive. Actually, there's like a hotel room that you can stay in up in the top-ish of Cinderella's castle, and the reason that, like, once you're in there, it sounds like really cool and whatever, and basically people have to like win it on radios and whatever, but you can't. When you're in there, you can't look outside. You can't go outside during the middle of the night because Disney is known for the fact that more happens at Disney in the middle of the night than it does while the park is open, which is crazy to think about. But that video kind of gives you a good glimpse of like what they mean by that.
Yeah, I think the episode thing is like half an hour, and it's really cool. It shows the time lapse that's like circling around, but also just like more detail, and they interview cast that's like in charge of stuff. But yeah, and it really is like not that long because the Halloween party ends at midnight. The people don't really get out right at midnight. So then you probably start at like 1 in the morning, and you don't get done until like probably 7 a.m. And the park opens at 8 a.m. for like early hours, 8:30. So that's such a short turnaround time. It's really interesting. 100%.
Yeah, it's really cool. Definitely check out the video. It's cool.
And then another big announcement that I'm excited about, but also like curious what this means. The Swan and Dolphin announced a huge transformation and expansion plan, which costs about $275 million. That's a lot of money. So like what does that mean? They just made the Swan Reserve, which is a little more like sleeky, modern. But are they gonna like totally destroy Swan and Dolphin? Or like that's a ton of money. Like what are they gonna do with that much money? I mean, their property is pretty big. And they have a lot of like quote unquote dead space that like they use for walking and the boats and it hooks up to the boardwalk and the pools but like I don't know, did you read more about like what they plan to do, or did they really announce what they plan to do? Or
I don't know that there was a lot of details. I didn't really look too much into it. 275 million, I think it sounds like a lot of money, but I'm sure when you're looking at like you said, a property of that scope, that probably isn't as much as we think, but maybe not. I don't know. And yeah, I'm wondering like what this is going to entail. There's like, anyone that's been to Disney World, you know that there's like this iconic sight line when you come into the property from basically any direction, but looking at like Tower of Terror and the Epcot Ball, and you can see sometimes the Tree of Life and Everest and the Swan and Dolphin is part of that. And so
yeah.
I'm curious to see if they do change it. I hope they don't make it to look like the Swan Reserve. Like the Swan Reserve looks nice and bougie and everything, but it's just not like classic and iconic like the top of the Swan and Dolphin is now. But yeah, I don't know what their plan is, if it's just going to be new buildings or if they're going to be revamping the old buildings, and how they'll approach that project, given they'll probably have to shut down sections at a time if they are going to be scraping and rebuilding essentially.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't be able
yeah,
to
that's what I was
lose.
interested about. Because when I went in April and we stayed at the Dolphin, which is usually the side that we stay on, it was newer than when I had stayed there, like, I'm trying to think what year that was with Eiley, 2021. And they had redone the carpet. They had redone, like, the bathrooms. Like, it looked really nice. It still was small. Like, we've talked about in a couple episodes. Like, the bathrooms are really, really tiny. Yeah. But everything else, it was, like, felt very new and polished and fresh. So I'm like, I'm just curious what they're going to do with this. But I do love the hotel. I love the boardwalk. Like, that whole area is one of my favorite places. So, yeah, to be determined, I guess. But curious what that means. And then, of course, Regan sent me some news that you can now fly from Walt Disney World to Paris nonstop, which basically just means like from MCO to Charles de Gaulle is my guess, nonstop. Which I'm kind of surprised that wasn't an option before, because we actually have a direct flight from Raleigh. So it surprised me that Orlando didn't have a direct flight to Paris.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know about like what the circumstances were prior to this announcement, but it definitely, like, whenever I see stuff like that, I'm just like, oh, is it gonna be $50 then? And then it's not.
Yeah, it's like so expensive.
Yeah. So regardless, obviously not gonna be flying to Paris anytime soon, but still a really cool option to have for Orlando locals and stuff. I don't know. I don't know how long that flight is, but I'd imagine it's got to be somewhere around 8 hours.
No, I think it's like 5 from RDU. So
really?
It's actually, I want to say, now I need to look it up. It's not as long as you'd think it is, because you're really just like going right over and then the Atlantic and then you're there. Like France is.
But is England not directly north of that?
Yeah. How far is England?
I feel like
when we flew from Philadelphia to England.
Yeah, wasn't it like 8 hours?
I don't know. Maybe now you're making me question. I'm going to look it up while we're talking. So while I'm looking it up, talk about the cast member menu thing, because this is crazy to me.
I actually, no, you talk about this, because I cannot remember for the life of me what this is.
Well, so basically what I'm understanding is that, when I first read this headline, I was like, oh, this has to be something to do with, the thing that happened at Disney Springs where the person died after eating the food. Yeah. But then it wasn't that. It was basically like, hold on, let me find the actual article that you had sent me. It was like somebody got fired, and then after they got fired, they decided to change the menu with like including allergy info. And I don't really understand, like, why would someone do that? Like, what is unless they're just very weird. But it basically just said, according to WDW News Today, a former Walt Disney World cast member is being sued for changing menu information after being fired. Some of his alterations include dangerously falsifying allergen info, according to a local news station. The filing,
yeah, I remember this article now.
So basically, he was fired in June, but continued to have access to the menu update system for 3 months afterwards on personal devices. And the lawsuit alleges that he hacked the system in retaliation for his firing, and the changes weren't noticed until he changed the font to Wingdings, which is like symbols instead of letters. Like, I am so confused. Like, first of all, who is this guy, and why did he have access to change the menus? Like, that seems like a pretty big, I don't know, power to have, right? That's weird.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, he has to be pretty high up to be able to just go in and change fonts and stuff and have it, like, I don't know, like everything going unnoticed as a person. So he has to know enough to have made it subtle radar until that point. Yeah,
it's so weird. So I also was like, dude, what benefit did you get from that? I don't fully understand. And the picture is like Restaurantosaurus, so I don't know if that's the restaurant, like that's where he worked. Like, I'm very confused, but
because like that menu doesn't change ever. So I mean,
I know,
like, not never,
right?
Like, how would you not notice?
Well, and also, like, they're serving the food, so it's like, we don't offer that. Like, right. I wonder how they, like, noticed it. It just, besides it changing to Wingdings, because that's weird. And they were like, oh, I bet you this was Michael. Like, how did they figure out?
How they figure it out, yeah.
He was, like,
and
disgruntled.
Also, like, what was the guy's, like, plan? Was he just playing a prank, or was he trying to, I mean, I guess changing the allergens, maybe he was trying to get them sued? Or something.
Maybe, but that's horrible. Like, somebody could have died. I don't know. Yeah. That was a crazy story. So I thought that story was crazy. Okay, you're right. It is 8 hours. The flight from RDU to Paris is 7 hours 40 minutes, but from MCO to Charles de Gaulle it's about 8-ish hours. Because right now it's listing it. If you just Google like flight time MCO to Charles de Gaulle, it says 10 hours plus, but it's because it says connecting flight because they just don't have like the official flight time yet. But gotcha. It looks like it would be about 8 and some change. Okay. So that was some of the news for this week. So then hopping over into our episode. So a while ago, when we were doing our little trip advice and budget planning and talking about Disney Springs, we had a couple of people ask what we would recommend to do on a rest day. And then Regan said, well, aren't you supposed to rest? And I was like, okay, yeah, true. But like people like me who are crazy take a rest day as more just like a non-park day. So I guess that's kind of how we'll define this, is it doesn't have to be a rest day. It could just be a non-park day. So you get up, you don't go to a theme park. What do you do on that day? Some people would choose to just rest. But we decided to poll our Instagram followers and see some suggestions that they had. And people actually came up with some pretty interesting thoughts that I hadn't thought of. There are some things that like most people typically would suggest, but then there were a couple of outliers that I thought were cool to share too. So one of the number one things that I think I would recommend if you're going to have a non-park day would be obviously to go to Disney Springs and check out our Disney Springs episode to listen to everything we suggest from there. But there's just a lot to do there. There's shopping, there's restaurants, there's activities. There's sometimes, they had the drone show recently. At the holidays, they have usually different high school performances of holiday music, like the choir. What do they call that? I don't remember what it's called.
No idea. But there is a lot of like live music in general. I feel like every time I'm there, there's some type of live music.
Yeah. So there's a lot to do there that's free. And then there's also just like you at some point have to eat. And so it's different than just typical like resort food depending on where you're staying.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So definitely recommend Disney Springs as one option. My favorite option, which we were, talking about the Boardwalk hotels, the Epcot hotels, and I love the Boardwalk. If you're not staying at the Boardwalk, this is where it gets a little tricky because it's not easy to get there if you're not staying there. And you can go and park like at Swan and Dolphin, but it's a pretty penny. It's like what, $30 to park?
$35.
Yeah, so that's crazy. It doesn't matter if you're there for an hour or all day. That gets you like a day of access, but it is super expensive. But if you can take a bus, so if you're staying at another hotel that's not on the Skyliner, because you could take the Skyliner over, if you're on a Skyliner hotel to Epcot because it's outside the gates, and then you can walk to the boardwalk. It's a very short walk. Or you could take a bus from your hotel to Disney Springs and then hop again from Disney Springs to the boardwalk. Again, kind of expensive. Not expensive, time consuming. And then you could also Uber. But what they have to offer at the boardwalk, I think a lot of this has to do with nostalgia from back in the day of why I love it so much. I think a lot of people who have gone like since COVID or later are like, why is this so cool? Because a lot of things have closed or changed over the years. But back in the day when we used to stay at Swan and Dolphin, it was like the most fun to go out to dinner. We'd go to the ESPN restaurant, which closed, rest in peace, the best. Or like Big River Grill, which is now closed. So they're redoing a lot of stuff. But my favorite part about the boardwalk is Jelly Rolls, and it's a dueling piano bar. It is an expensive cover charge. It's $22, but the doors open at 7 and they play nonstop. There's no breaks. There's no like taking a rest. It's nonstop playing until 1:45 in the morning. And they have popcorn there. They don't really have food, but they have all kinds of different drinks, or you can just like listen to the music. Like you don't have to order drinks. But it is, we were preparing for this episode, since we first wrote out this list, apparently it's rumored to be closing. So like that's been floating around Instagram, and I'm going to be so sad if that's true. Because this is one of my favorite things to do on a non-park night. Children are allowed. It's definitely more of an adult environment. But it's really, really fun. Have you been there, Regan?
No, I haven't. And I actually like saw the article or some article that said it was rumored to be closing soon. And thought to myself, like, I probably should go do this at least once.
Yeah.
Because, you've always said good things about it, but we never really do rest days, so...
Yeah, that's the thing, is like a lot of people are like park, and you could do this after you go to Epcot because it's open really late, but you're going to be really tired. So it's especially great for people that are staying at the Boardwalk, the Yacht and Beach Club, Swan and Dolphin, because you can walk right back to your hotel. You don't have to worry about busing back late and all this stuff, or Ubering back. But it is a really fun experience. It's very intimate compared to other piano bars that I've been to. Like, it gets crowded as the night goes on, but people kind of come and go as they please. They take requests off of napkins, and they're very talented. So it's a really fun time. So highly recommend, especially if it's about to close, go there. And if they close it, they better replace it with something good, because we're dwindling down the list for what's at the Boardwalk. Right. You also can rent Surrey bikes, which is something that a lot of people, especially from like the Jersey Shore, do with families. And they have like 2-seaters, 4-seaters. It's $25 per half hour for a 2-seater and $28 per half hour for a 4-seater. I don't know, Regan, like, do you remember how that compares to like actual like New Jersey prices? Is that similar, or is that expensive?
I feel like that's expensive.
Okay.
And usually in New Jersey, you have it for way longer than a half hour.
Yeah.
Or an hour. But I think, like, I want to say it was like $20, and you can just have it for the day and stuff, maybe. But I don't super remember. But I have done that before, both in Jersey and at Epcot, or not Epcot, the Boardwalk. And like, just if you're gonna do it at the Boardwalk, just be aware of like
people,
the hills.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff. Like, I just remember, like, we got to the point where there's like a hill right before, kind of near the International Gateway entrance to Epcot, and like, oh my god, like we were just cranking. It was just Steph and I trying to get up that hill, and like it was very, very difficult. So just it's not quite a leisurely stroll around the Boardwalk, but it is quite nice if the weather's good. So
yeah, I know that hill well from the challenge. That's how I know that hill. Running. It is a beast. I didn't think about that with the bike. But Yeah, so that's another option on the boardwalk. And then there's also like different midway carnival type games. There is the Atlantic Dance Hall, which is actually like unfortunately pretty lame. But it does not have a cover charge, and so it's fun to just go in there with friends and do whatever. But I had my bachelorette party at the boardwalk, and so I was like, very excited to go back this April and sad that like so much had closed and changed. So yeah, I definitely do love the boardwalk, but hope that they bring more affordable and still like entertainment stuff to it, because the newest thing that opened was the cake shop. So it's like a brand new cake bake shop, and it's a table. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Table service restaurant, but also serves cake, and from what I've heard, it's like astronomically priced cake.
It's
like
extremely expensive. Yeah.
a big slice of cake, which is a big slice, so you could probably share it between two people, is like $22, $24.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. I'm like, that's what they replaced the ESPN restaurant with, and I was just kind of disappointed that that's the direction that they went. So I know this cake shop is like super famous in other places, and it's like this well-known lady that whatever. But it just seems like, again, they're just really trying to stab you for every little dollar.
Like I don't know that there's ever a situation like ever that I would just be like, we need to go to a sit-down restaurant to get cake.
Right. Yeah, because the food is just like whatever food. It's not like even anything super fancy or different. Well, it's a little fancier.
There is food though.
Apparently, there is food.
Okay,
and then
I was gonna say,
also,
I thought it was like exclusively cake, and I was like, why would I not just go to a restaurant that can get food and then cake?
Yeah, no. I think it also has, and it's like supposedly there's a brunch. That's like everyone's like, ooh, the brunch. Let me see if I can pull up the menu, but it is just really bougie fancy. So they have brunch, lunch, afternoon tea, dinner, desserts, and cocktails is what it says. So I don't know. They've done some preview stuff. It is open now as of this episode coming out. Like today it says 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And the menu, let me pull it up here. But yeah, they have breakfast cakes. So they have like crumb cakes, banana breads. Those are more reasonable. Pound cake, and then the breakfast menu, some of these things are like $27 for breakfast, which is crazy. But they do have some stuff that sounds good. Like they have these cinnamon toast brioche bites, which are $24 though. But it's like, sounds delicious. Would I pay $24 for that? Probably not. So like that's their breakfast menu. Yeah. Their dinner menu is definitely more fancy, but again, nothing like crazy. Like they have quiche, which again sounds very breakfasty to me, and that's like $25. And then dinner, they do have a classic burger with pommes frites to like make it sound fancy. So a burger and fries for $27. They have crab cakes for $50. It's just a little like, I don't know. It's a little much. So will I try it? Probably not. But it does seem like something special or different. I know a lot of people are interested in the tea, like bringing their kids there to do a tea. So it sounds like another place for very wealthy people with deep pockets that we just are not those people.
Right.
So that's one of the restaurants on the boardwalk. They also have a little ice cream shop, a bakery. They have margaritas, which are not nearly as good as Mexico, just a heads up. Trattoria Al Forno, which you've been to, you said.
Yeah, I went for breakfast, and that was actually really reasonably priced and had really good breakfast options.
So I'm curious if they'll keep doing breakfast there too, which they probably will, because I mean, there's a lot of people that come for both. Or like would come to both. And then there's a little pizza window, which has pretty decent pizza for, again, like reasonable price. There's the Cape May Cafe at the Yacht and Beach Club. There is the Yachtsman's Steakhouse, Beaches and Cream. And then Big River recently closed. I believe it's like closed permanently. I don't know what they're doing. But Beaches and Cream is another place that a lot of people talk about. And they're like, you have to go. You have to go. So do you want to talk about our Beaches and Cream experience and what your thoughts were?
I mean, like, for what it wasn't bad. Like, the most frustrating part, I think you already talked about a little bit at the beginning of the episode, of just, like,
Parking.
It's like impossible to park and get there without paying an arm and a leg just to park. Like, more than you'll probably spend at the restaurant, it feels like.
Well, what was weird, I think this changed though, because what was weird is we went there during, I guess it was still COVID-y times, and we had a reservation, but they wouldn't let us park at the beach club. They were like, no, you have to go park somewhere else or bus in, even though we had a reservation. But now I think that's changed. I think if you have a reservation similar to like Contemporary or whatever, you can park there for free. So I think that does make the experience a little better.
Right. And also, like, I don't know, I didn't know as much about the app and, like, permissions you need on the app at the time. And so, like, I was just meeting you guys there. And so the reservation would have been under your name on your
Right.
app, and I wouldn't have been able to show anyone anything. So,
Right.
yeah, that's another piece of it as well that may have just been, like, our ignorance.
Yeah.
But,
It was our
so,
first time going over to the boardwalk without staying there or as anybody staying there in our party. So it definitely threw us off a little bit.
right.
But the restaurant, the food was fine. The ice cream was good. They had really cute ice cream. It is pricey, but it's definitely an experience. It's not something you're going to do all the time. You can walk up to the window, and if you're staying there, and just order, then you wouldn't be able to park for free, obviously, because you don't have a reservation. But they do have like a walk up window, and everybody talks about like the Minnie's kitchen sink sundae, which was super cute. We got it for all the kids, and they shared. So it was a cool experience, but it's not something that I'm like dying to go back and do again.
Yeah, and I mean there's another restaurant, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's in Celebration. That has a very similar vibe to Beaches and Cream. That is like a really, really, really good brunch spot. And so like Steph and I have been there twice now, this year, and like I would take friends to that every time because like the food is amazing. It's that like the old diner vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a really good restaurant, and it's like obviously much cheaper,
And free parking because it's off property.
and free parking, so can't really
Yeah.
lose there.
Can't lose there. But so that's kind of what the boardwalk currently has going on. We'll see with all these changes. I really hope like petition to save jelly rolls. I know a lot of people are like, it's expensive. And I don't know. I don't really think it's that much more. If you're going to pay $22 for cake, you can pay $22 for a cover charge to get in and listen to some great live music, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how long that cake place is gonna last, but
I'm so curious because I just cannot imagine people paying all that money. That just
yeah,
seems really crazy.
yeah,
Because that'd be like for one meal for a family, you could have bought another park ticket day, or like that's your multi-pass. So like, I don't know. Catering to the wealthy, I suppose. And then another thing that you could do on a rest day is go to the pool. Obviously, all the resorts have great pools. So a lot of people are like, oh, but I'm staying at an all-star. Actually, I think the all-stars have really cool like theming. All-Star Sports is fine, but All-Star Movies and All-Star Music, they both have really cool pools. And every All-Star resort has multiple pools as well. So it's not just one pool. They usually have one really big pool and then other little pools that can be a little quieter. Sometimes they have pools for little kids. Obviously, the bigger resorts have better pools, and usually once you get to like the moderate tier, they have water slides. The deluxe usually have some fancier pools. Like one of my dream stays is like the beach club, their really cool pirate ship like sand bottom pool. Just seems awesome. But I think every resort, even the really inexpensive ones on property, have awesome pools.
yeah.
So
I mean, I have done my fair share of pool hopping, in the day and back in the day. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, I didn't stay at those resorts, but I definitely did sneak into their pools,
which is not allowed.
which is not allowed. So don't do that.
And now they're really, really strict about it.
Yeah. But there's always been one pool that I've never been able, like literally since I was a kid, I've never been able to go in. I've never been able to do the water slide for, which is the one you just mentioned, the Yacht Beach Club, with the pirate ship, water slide. And so like literally ever since I was like 5, I've had that image of a water slide in my head, and like I've like vowed that someday I will have a pirate ship water slide in my backyard because I could never afford it, to go to like at Disney.
It's so cool. I don't know if you have to stay at the yacht or the beach, or if you have to stay at the beach, or if you're at the yacht, you can go to either pool. I would imagine so, because they're like pretty much connected.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've never stayed at a hotel that's connected to the boardwalk besides Swan and Dolphin, so
Yeah.
I'm not super well versed in that. We have gone into Polynesian's pool before. Grand Floridian's is kind of boring and bougie.
Yeah, see, I feel like Polynesians is cool, but not cooler than Yacht and Beach Club.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like a cool vibe, and it's also just it's like I'm just a big fan of sight lines, and so like it's nice to be able to be in the pool and be around, and then just look across, and it's just like there's
The
the
castle.
castle and Magic Kingdom. And
Yeah.
you can see the fireworks and stuff from those pools. Um, yeah, so I've enjoyed Polynesian's pool. I don't think I've ever been to Contemporaries, at least not since we were a kid, if there is one.
Yeah, when we were a kid and they have a water slide. I don't remember it being that cool. They've probably redone it since we were there. But it's fine. But I do remember it having a slide. That was like the big thing when we were kids. Like, does it have a slide?
No, it still is for me.
Yeah.
But like I don't know that I can't think of like a really really impressive resort water slide at Disney.
No. Yeah. The Wilderness Lodge pool is cool. And they have like a little water slide. But yeah, none of them are like, oh, they're so amazing. Like compared to like
Yeah.
obviously like a water park.
Well, if you look at like Disneyland, for instance, it's like the Disneyland Hotel has a water slide that's themed. It's like themed around a monorail. So like when you're going down, it's like you're going through the monorail. It's cool.
Oh, that is cool.
And so yeah, that one sticks out in my head as like a high effort water slide.
I'm surprised they don't do more high effort water slides here, mostly because it's like warmer here than it is in California. So
Yeah, but
I'm
I think they
surprised
also
don't-
probably want people to pay to go to the water parks here.
True, that's
They
true,
don't
that's
have
true.
those in California.
Yeah.
There is a really like memorable slide. I guess the most memorable slide that I've been on probably was at Caribbean Beach, just because like the theming is like pirate themed,
See, I've never been to that resort.
and so yeah, it's like I have like pictures of it or pictures at it, and that was cool. That pool might be my favorite pool in Disney that I've been to.
Okay.
So.
Okay, cool. So yeah, there's obviously the pools at the resort where you're staying. You can't pool hop, but they all have really nice pools. Like honestly, they are nice. They are heated, so they're usually pretty warm. Yeah, so that is an idea. But you can't pool hop, but you can resort hop.
Yeah.
So Caitlin A Travel, shout out to you for mentioning this. This is something that I don't think we do enough of. Well, again, we don't do rest days very often. But it is a good idea to just resort hop. If you're taking the bus to Disney Springs, afterwards take a bus to go to the Beaches and Cream window or go to the Contemporary. There's so many different things to see at all the resorts. If you're on the Skyliner, it's really easy. Just get on the Skyliner, hop off when it gets to the next resort, walk around, see what they have. I definitely want to do this when I go in March with my daughter because we're staying at the Pop Century on the Skyliner, and I want to go see the Riviera really bad. I've hopped off there once from the Skyliner, but we didn't really do much because she was actually little and napping in the stroller at the time. So I definitely think resort hopping is a really fun thing to do as well. Is that something that you've done when you've stayed at a Disney hotel before?
Not really. I feel like resort hopping I did a bit when I lived there, and mostly
Yeah.
around like Christmas time to see Christmas
Yeah.
decorations. But even then, I think the most hopping we've ever done is really just like getting on the resort monorail and doing the three there.
The loop. Yeah.
So yeah, we haven't done a whole lot of resort hopping.
Yeah, so that's an option for sure. And then Dads of Adventure on Instagram also mentioned mini golf, which you guys have done, but we haven't done.
Yeah.
There are 2 different courses. They're each 18 holes. It's $19 for adults and $12 per child. Usually they're open 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Obviously check the hours for when you're there and the weather. But there's 2 courses, the Fantasia Gardens course, which is right near the Swan and Dolphin, and then the Winter Summerland course, which is near Blizzard Beach. And there's actually a summer and a winter course. So that's fun. You guys have done Fantasia, Regan, or which one have you done? Have you done all of them?
No, I've done all three of them. Yeah.
Okay.
We used to go with our friends Emily and Barry, just as something to do. It's honestly not horribly priced.
No, yeah, compared to other mini golf.
Right. And it's fun. I mean, the theming's great. And it's just a good vibe, good time. We really enjoyed it all the times that we went. Yeah, like it's very Disney in that like all the holes are like very themed. And yeah,
Yeah, because
like
is the winter Olafy, or am I not remembering that
I don't
right?
remember.
Okay. Yeah, the Fantasia one is one I've always wanted to do when we're staying right there at Swan and Dolphin, but my kids aren't quite old enough to like enjoy mini golf yet, but we love mini golf, so that's something that I definitely want to do eventually with them. And it's definitely a good rest day option because it's something that takes a little bit of time, not super expensive, walkable if you're staying, at the boardwalk, or you can bus. So yeah, definitely a good option. And then there also are 4 actual golf courses, and if you're into golf, there's the Palm, Magnolia, Buena Vista, and Oak Trail. They have different packages and stuff depending on what you want to do. If you're into golf, you can look that up, but that is another option as well. And then character dining, which is definitely something that we've done in the past on our rest day. Character dining in the park is obviously a great experience as well, but it does take a big chunk of your times, like sitting down for restaurants. So depending on how many days you have, how much you're trying to pack into your day, there also are a lot of really cool, like off park, like on property, but still off the parks, outside of the park options. Yeah. So one that we really want to do is Riviera. That's been on the top of the list, like at Topolino's for breakfast. But then there also is there's one at Wilderness Lodge that's like a Snow White theme. And there's just a lot, like the Chef Mickey's, obviously, Ohana. So there's a lot of really good options to do if you're looking to fill your time, but you're also going to have a meal. And that's also a good way to do, like, if you're doing one like Ohana, that is family style or like buffet style, then you can kind of do that more like a brunch, and then it kind of combines the cost of 2 meals into one. You can eat a bunch while you're there, and then go chill at the pool or take a nap after or whatever for your rest day. Yeah. But which character dining off property, which ones have you been to? Because we've been to Chef Mickey's as a kid. You've been to Ohana or no?
I have not been to Ohana. I believe Steph has been to Ohana.
Okay.
But I honestly didn't even know it was character dining. But I know that she said it was really good. Oh, okay, yeah, she didn't go for breakfast.
Yeah.
No, I don't know that we've done a lot of character dining. Obviously, like, just meeting characters is not on the top of our list at this stage in our life. So, yeah, you'd be more well-versed in that. Like, most of the time when I'm picking places, it's more about just, like, the food or the amount of food.
Yeah. Yeah, Cape May Cafe, like on the boardwalk, like Epcot Resort area, is another one that's Disney or character dining that looks super cute. So yeah, there's a lot of options for that if you're looking for a way to fill your time but also have a cool experience. And then another really cool dining experience that we've done a number of times. We did it a few times as kids, and then did you go with us to Hoop-Dee-Doo when we were older? Were you there?
Last time I went to Hoop-Dee-Doo was one time when Dad was staying at the campground.
Okay, and I wasn't with you then.
No, it was just Steph and I went to visit them, and then we had the breakfast, and yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, Hoop-Dee-Doo, I feel like is like a very, like, almost like a hidden gem. Like, I feel like not a lot of people talk about it.
It's a very obscure thing, yeah.
It is. So it's at the Fort Wilderness Campground, and you can, again, if you have a reservation, you can go there for this. And it is a 2-hour show. They have multiple shows starting in the morning, going through the night on most days. And they have packages based on where you sit. So there's like balcony seating, there's on the floor seating, and it kind of ranges. So adults, it seems like it varies about $66 to $74 per person. And then kids, $39 to $44 per child. And again, it's kind of based on where you sit, time of day, different things. but it is a really fun, quirky show. They sing, they dance, they tell really quirky jokes, but the food is really good. You went for breakfast, you said?
Yeah, it was breakfast. It was good. Really, really
Okay.
good.
We've been only for dinner and it was really good. Like very good cornbread, similar to like not Liberty Tree, but kind of Liberty Tree. Like they had like chicken and mashed potatoes and all kinds of different
like
stuff.
Southern style.
Southern style,
Food.
yeah. And it is really good. And we went when we were kids. Maybe actually, I don't remember if it's the trip that you were a baby or I was 3. And we have videos of going, and it is almost the same show today. But it is just really silly fun. They make you get into it. And I think that's a great way if you're going to look for something to do on a rest day and you want to check out another resort. That's a great way to do it. And it's a really good time, really good food. And a lot of people, I feel like, don't know about it. So there often are seats available. It does sell out, but it's something that you don't have to necessarily book like as far in advance as some of the other more coveted restaurants, I think.
Yeah, that's a good option.
Yeah, good option. And then another unique option that I didn't think about, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is genius, was from Jordan Michelot. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. To go get a massage on your rest day. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're a genius. Yeah, we should do this. And they should have more options for this, like on property that aren't crazy expensive. But after a long day of walking and going around the parks, especially if your rest day is like before you leave, or like halfway through, that is a great option to just go get a massage, rest, and relax. But yeah, so that is another good idea. And then obviously resting, having that day to just nap, sleep in, go to bed early, because your park days are usually incredibly full and you're exhausted by the end of it. So yeah, I don't know, Regan, what is your top suggestion to do off this list if somebody is asking on a rest day?
I mean, the most common thing, I think, and the most relaxing thing is pool.
Yeah.
Just going to your resort pool. A lot of the resorts also have, like, if you make a day out of it and, like, actually, like, you know, eat there and, like, exist, like, be there for a while, like, it's a nice day. Steph and I have done that several times, and it's always nice, like, and then, like Olivia mentioned, the pools that they have that are kind of set off to the side that are a bit less loud, a bit less piled up with kids.
Yeah.
Are quite nice. And then I think most resorts, if not all resorts, have a hot tub to some extent. And so those are always good. So pools always are number one for sure. When we're with, even when we're with people. And then mini golf is another good one that we do pretty often. But I guess, I mean, like, it's hard, like, things like jelly rolls and, like, the dance hall and stuff, it's just stuff that we've never really paid attention to or been interested in. But, like, jelly roll sounds good, it's just, like, that cover charge is kind of wild. Like,
Steep.
when we go, we're already spending so much money. So, like, spending more is always not. It's usually things get vetoed if they cost money when we're not in the park, so...
Yeah. I guess if you're deciding between mini golf or jelly rolls, it's not that much of a difference, and you can spend, 3 hours in jelly rolls easily. But yeah, it is a cost. So yeah, my recommendation would be definitely do something a little more relaxing, whether that's a massage, the pool, and then either Disney Springs for like live music, restaurants, or the boardwalk. Or doing like a character meal or Hoop-Dee-Doo, something like that. Some kind of combination where you're not doing like Disney Springs and then going to Hoop-Dee-Doo, then doing like just trying to have a little bit more chill time. Definitely sleeping in if you don't have kids as long as you can. If you do have kids, as long as they'll allow you to, or napping when they nap, if they still nap. And then a little bit of an earlier bedtime, because usually most people do a rest day kind of in the middle of their parks. Is that what you would suggest for people? Like, if you're doing 4 park days and you have an opportunity for a rest day in between somewhere, would you do it halfway through? What would you do?
I guess, yeah. I mean, it kind of depends on the person. Some people like to go, and then rest, and then travel.
Yeah.
So it kind of just depends. But I would probably personally take it, yeah, like in the middle of the week. If we were going like a 5-day, I would have that be on the Wednesday.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, do it like in the middle of the week. Yeah, I think for me it depends like which order you're doing the parks, like which day, because
that's
like
also
Animal
true.
Kingdom's not like a full day if you're doing that as one of your park days. But if you're seeing like a late nighttime show, I try to always back up whatever the next day is to like not being as full of a day. Because usually if you're doing a late nighttime show, you're also, if you're us and you're crazy, starting really early.
Yeah.
So then it just makes it a little bit more complicated the next day when you're super tired and trying to get through the day.
Right.
So yeah. So that's some of our opinions on what to do on your non-park / rest day. Definitely let us know what your thoughts are, what your favorite things to do are. Thank you to everybody who wrote in and kind of told us what they like to do and some different unique ideas, as well as for everybody for participating just in general in the question box. That was awesome to see so much participation on this one. Another thing that we didn't super touch on, because I kind of counted it as a ticketed thing, are the water parks, but just wanted to throw in there, I guess in 2025, I don't know if this is still accurate or if it was just if you booked early, but when we booked for our trip in March, they included a check-in day at the water park. So you could go to the water park for free, whichever one is open, because they rotate which one's open when. But you can check in at your resort, or on your check-in day, you can go to the water park for free, like included, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because usually that is a separate ticketed event. You can, if you have a hopper, you can upgrade to a bigger hopper, which includes water parks. I don't necessarily recommend that you do that.
Could never imagine doing a park day and also doing a water park in the same day. There's just no shot.
No. Or
Water
using a
parks are
park day
exhausting.
as your water park, like a water park as your park day. I'm like,
Yeah.
but I haven't been to the water parks since we were really little. We've been to both. When's the last time that you went? And which one?
We went with Emily and Barry, and I think we also went with. I've been twice to both since getting married. Yeah.
Are they included in your annual pass?
No.
Okay.
No. But they're like really cheap.
Oh, really?
Like in comparison to a park day, it's like 40. It was like $40 a person when we went, I think.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
They just have like specific times of the year that I think it's cheaper.
Yeah.
But regardless,
sure.
like they're always cheaper than park days.
Yeah.
The problem is that you only get like, at least for me, like a few hours out of it. I think that if we chilled a bit more, it'd be more entertaining. But like water parks and me don't mix well. I don't love that you have to climb a million sets of stairs to do anything fun.
Yeah.
And so it's just not super my vibe. But both of them are pretty solid. Typhoon Lagoon might be a little better to me.
Oh, interesting.
I just think that it's more the tropical vibe. I think it's cool. But I like the idea of Blizzard Beach and like the contrast.
Yeah. That's what... So, Blizzard Beach... Is that one... Now they do have like a little frozen section, right?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay, because that's the one that I'm hoping is open, because there are a lot of, obviously, like height requirements on things, like slides and stuff. So when we go, I am like, at first I was like, do we really want to spend our day doing that? But like, it's something unique that we haven't done a lot, and I'm not a big water park person. I was as a kid, but now they kind of gross me out a little bit. But I know Disney is like very clean. But I also have this like vivid memory when we were kids. We went to Typhoon Lagoon, and I think this is why I'm like scarred by Typhoon Lagoon. We were in the what do you call it, lazy river, and floating down, and all of a sudden people started screaming and going crazy, and there was a snake in the lazy river, and somebody like a cast member came, God bless that cast member, and got the snake out. But as a kid, it was terrifying. And so I was like, nope, never coming back here again. And Typhoon Lagoon was much more like lush. There were trees, there were bushes everywhere. Blizzard Beach was much more, I hate to use the word sterile, but more just like not a lot of that. And so I was like, okay, that one's better because there's not as many places for snakes to like hide. Yeah. I don't know. It freaked me out as a kid.
Yeah, I totally remember that 100%.
And we only
I'm sure
maybe
I told
went
that story 100 times when we went too.
Yeah, when you went to Typhoon Lagoon. Yeah, we've maybe only been to the water parks like as kids, maybe one time each. Like I don't really remember. And the biggest thing that I remember about Blizzard Beach was obviously the huge water slide, the Summit or whatever it's called.
Summit Plummet.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Have you done it?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that, like, I remember seeing the commercials. I remember seeing, like, it looks like the guy's gonna fly off, but obviously you go down. It freaked me out as a kid, but I also was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. But I haven't done any kind of water slide like that since I was, like, I don't know, a teenager. So I don't think that I could do it. But,
I think the concept of it just freaks me out too much. I'm sure that when you're up there, the sides and stuff are a lot taller than I would think they are.
Yeah. It just seems so steep.
I hope it's like it's steep, but it's not like the point where you're free falling. And like, yeah. I don't know. Everyone that I've ever talked to that goes on that never has a pleasant experience. Like, you like hit your back wrong, or you like get water like plummeting up your nose at like 1,000,000 miles an hour. Like, I just don't think it sounds enjoyable. So I've never done it.
Oh gosh. Okay. But yeah, that is a cool perk that they included for 2025. If you're staying on property, I think it's if you're staying on property for 3 nights or something like that. I don't remember. But you got that included. So definitely look into it. If you've already booked a trip, you are staying on property. And we'll see when we go in March, like how that goes. Okay. So thinking about old versus new for today, I was struggling a little bit. So, one that I thought of was, I feel like a very easy one, but, we will get into when we get into our little series, which we'll talk about in a minute, what's kind of coming up next. But, going from Ellen's Energy Adventure to Guardians of the Galaxy. And I don't know who else would choose Ellen's Energy Adventure, but
I'm sure there's people out there that would.
Probably. There's some that's true. There's some Epcot like stands that like old school Epcot that don't like all the change. But explain, did you ever ride Ellen's Energy Adventure? Because I did.
The only time I remember being on that ride was when we got evacuated.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, really? When you lived there?
No. It wasn't open
kids?
when I lived there.
Oh.
It's been closed. I don't know. Can you look up when it closed? But
yeah,
no, I remember when we were kids, I think. We were on it, and there was a room, like, I need to rewatch the ride-through video, but there was a room that there was, like, a Bronchiosaurus in, like a long-necked dinosaur.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And, like, that room, like, we stopped in that room, and they escorted us out.
Oh, dang.
Of that room. That's the only time I remember being on that ride.
When we were kids, like you were there with mom or something? Maybe Dad and I were riding something else.
Yeah, that's possible too. But
I feel like our parents never took us on that because they were like, it's the Big Bang. Is that not accurate? Really? Well, it's about, like, that's kind of like a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Now that you mention it, I feel like I kind of remember walking into line with mom probably and her like, kind of explaining that to me and how that's not what happened and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So basically a little backstory about this ride. It was first called the Universe of Energy, and that was its title from 1982 to 1996. Well, I guess it was a pavilion, and then there was a pre-show that talked about energy, and there was, all this different stuff about energy. Then it changed to Ellen and Bill Nye the Science Guy. Jamie Lee Curtis was in it. Alex Trebek, Johnny Gilbert. There's like all these different famous people, which I only remember Ellen.
Yeah,
and
same.
I don't remember Jamie Lee Curtis. I feel like I would remember that. Now I got to rewatch it too. But it was open from 1996 to 2017, renamed Ellen's Energy Adventure. And it was talking about basically how energy is produced, the history of energy, and new like renewable sources like solar and hydroelectric power. It is the longest version of the, it says the longest version of the attraction. I feel like it was the longest attraction. Maybe not Carousel of Progress. I wonder how long it was.
I don't know.
45 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty
minutes.
Sure it was really, really long. Yeah.
Ugh.
Which is why we never, ever, ever did it.
Yeah. I did it one time that I can remember. I don't remember doing it as a kid. I did it one time with Gretchen, and we were like, why not? We're here. And we rode it, and I was like, wow, that was so long and boring. But yeah, it definitely has like a Big Bang element, and that's where like the dinosaurs are, like the Brontosaurus. And then the, very last day that it played through was August 2017. So they didn't get Guardians of the Galaxy open for like 6 years.
Yep.
That's crazy. Wow. And when they first made Guardians of the Galaxy, I thought it was the same show building, but you said they totally destroyed.
Oh, no. Everything is, it's all brand new.
It was flattened. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's so crazy. And then obviously, for those of you who have not been on Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, this is a hard one because I love Tower of Terror. It is my favorite ride. But Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind is maybe the best ride ever. Like, of all time. Like, it is so
I'm glad you feel that way. I thought you didn't.
Good.
I thought you didn't like it that much.
No, I love it. It's so smooth. It's so creative. The only thing that I don't love about it is I feel the same way about Frozen. I feel the same way about, I haven't been on Tiana's yet, but I have a feeling I'll feel the same way. They just there's not as much animatronic stuff. It's a lot of screens, and I still feel like Guardians is done really well, but the part where you're kind of circling around the moon, I'm like, they could have done a little more in that room, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that COVID budget definitely played a part in Guardians, but I think that everything being the way it is prevents it from having, any downtime.
True.
His animatronics aren't ever down, and there's nothing to really worry about there.
That's true. And it's not trackless, all the other problem rides. And I think this is one of the rides that, similar to Guardians of the Galaxy, the pre-show, although annoying for challenges, it is really, cool. It's a cool pre-show. When you've never been in it before, I don't want to spoil for people who haven't been on it, but you're just really immersed in it, and then you're like, whoa, how did that happen? I don't know.
Yeah,
I still am
cool.
Whoa,
it's
how
really
did that happen?
Done, yeah.
It is really well done.
It's very similar to Rise of the Resistance in that,
yes.
when you do it the first time, you're like, oh, that's so cool, and then every other time after that, you're like, this is taking forever.
How does it work? Yeah, that's true, yeah. Also want to know, how does it work? I'm so curious. But yeah, it does. Yeah. It does take time to get through the queue, through the pre-shows. There's multiple pre-shows, stuff like that. But the ride itself is really cool. So I'm still going to say Tower of Terror is my favorite for nostalgia reasons. But this actual physical ride is, unbelievable. Yeah. But so it actually opened May 27, 2022. So, okay, a little less than 5 years later. Yeah. And it was Epcot's first roller coaster, which I didn't even think about until right now, that they didn't have a roller coaster before it. It had been set to open in 2021, but then was delayed because of all the COVID stuff, as everything else in Epcot was. But it is one of the longest enclosed roller coasters, which is true because when you think of how long it is versus Rock and Roller Coaster, which is so short. Yeah, it's 3 minutes and 20 seconds. It says the duration of the actual roller coaster.
Is that including everything up to the launch?
I think that's once you start moving on the track.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense.
But that's a pretty good...
Mummy's got to be close then.
True. Let's look it up.
From Universal. Because there's so much starting and stopping in that ride.
That ride is so good. That's another one of my favorite rides. It's 2 minutes. It says Mummy is 2 minutes.
Wow. That ride feels a lot longer than that.
I know.
But yeah, no, Guardians is that's why I've always preferred Guardians over Tron. I think Tron's really, really fun. It's you get way more bang for your buck at Guardians with the hoops you had to jump through to get on the ride.
And I like the song changes, that you get a different song. I like stuff like that makes it, we've talked about re-rideability. It makes it, you want to get a different song.
Tron is just a little bit more, I wouldn't say more unique, because Guardians has different elements to it as well than a regular roller coaster. Yeah. For sure. And it's also smoother, despite
so smooth
being older.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I mean, Guardians is I think it's a perfect ride. It's so fun.
It is so fun. Yeah, cool. So I think we both pick Guardians.
Oh yeah, absolutely. For sure.
I'm curious, if you pick Ellen's Energy Adventure, please tell me why. And we're not shaming you. I just have questions.
Yeah. We need your essay. We need the pages long essay.
Yeah, just like I'm still waiting on people's essay of why Toy Story 1 is better than Toy Story 2, because so many people in our poll said Toy Story 1, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I don't
like,
understand.
But why? But tell me why. Okay, so
I do want to touch on, before we do the quiz, there's something that I forgot to mention when we were doing news stuff. So Premier Pass obviously came out now.
Oh yeah,
and so people have used it, and people have I've kind of seen it in action a bit. One thing about it that if you don't know what Premier Pass is, just go back 2 weeks, and I think that's when we talked about it. Something that they did that is incredibly gotcha to me is that when you buy Premier Pass, the app will give you, the Disney app will give you a checklist of all of the
what
rides.
You've ridden. Oh, that's kind of cool.
And then as you scan into them, a little animation plays that you checked off that ride, and then once you're done with all of the rides, it gives you a completion certificate.
Why don't they do this for the challenge?
Serotonin would be, or whatever, dopamine.
Still not worth $400.
No, it's not worth $400. But I'm a huge checklist person, so that would be obviously with the Every Ride Challenge. We're trying to check off all the rides, but yeah, I wish that they would do something like that. I wish there was some kind of official support for the challenge, where even if it was just a punch card or something, just so you could make your way through the rides throughout the day. And then if you got just whatever, a shirt or something at the end, it would be cool if you did it all. I think that would just be unique and interesting. A way to appeal to our demographic, I guess. So
interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
Just had to touch on that a little bit.
Okay, so since it's election season, I found this quiz question. I was like, oh, this is super interesting. So we're going to do this one since by the time this airs, election will be over.
No, it comes out the election day, doesn't it?
No, isn't Tuesday the 5th is the election day. Well, that's the voting day. So
isn't the 6th when it's everyone stares at the TV for hours and hours?
Yeah, but I think we don't usually have an answer for a couple days later, but I could be wrong. But anyways, yes, go vote if you haven't voted. Well, by the time this comes out, it'll be too late. Just kidding. Accept your fate.
You're too late. It's over.
But so the question today that I found was, what ride did President Harry Truman decline to go on due to political reasons? And I was like, ooh, Pirates of the Caribbean, It's a Small World, Dumbo, or Jungle Cruise?
Political reasons?
Yeah, I want to know the story behind this so bad.
I guess my guess is Pirates, but I don't know why.
My guess is Jungle Cruise.
Okay,
I don't know either. It is... Hold on, please hold. I'm copying. Oh my gosh, why do I always pick It's Dumbo.
Why?
Let's look it up. I don't know. Now I want to know. Bear with us while I look this up.
I don't understand what the political reason could be for that ride.
Oh, that's funny. This is funny. I never would have thought about this, but this makes sense. He declined to ride Dumbo because an elephant represents the Republican Party and he was a Democrat.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know
when he visited Disneyland.
The Republican Party.
Oh my gosh, are you serious, buddy? Come on.
I guess that was probably a bit deeper back then. That's funny.
Yeah, I think the animals aren't as much of a thing anymore. But yeah, a donkey and an elephant. You didn't know that? Anyways.
No,
so,
I didn't know that.
Come on. What, Regan? I guess you haven't been able to vote for that long. So you're still a baby. But Truman visited Disneyland in 1957, and that's when he refused to ride it. That is so funny. I never would have guessed that. Okay. I thought it was going to be something about, they portray people in a negative way, but that wasn't as much of a thing back then. All right. Well, that is our episode. So next up, we have a really fun 4-part series that we're going to do about deep diving into the history of each of the Walt Disney World parks and kind of talking about rides and shows of the past, our favorite rides and shows that are now gone, stories from that. And I think what I'm going to do is put up a poll on Instagram to vote for which one we release first, just for some funsies to get people involved. And it was, there's going to be a lot of research that goes into this, but there are so many things that are gone that I want to talk about or are soon to be gone in each park. And so it'll be fun to kind of relive and hopefully trigger some memories. I also wanted to share that I put up a poll from last week's episode of a picture of an Itza-Kadoozie and asked people who knew what this was. And only a few people said yes. Some people, I said, have you eaten one? Yes, no, or what is that? And so many people said, what is that?
No
so many
way.
people, yes, did not know.
Man,
and a lot of people just said
age
no.
Demographic then.
A lot of people that voted, what is that? Maybe they're not our age. People that said no, they never had one were our age. And I was like, are you kidding me? So you're missing out if you never had an Itza-Kadoozie, except probably not because they, like we talked about last week, they melt really fast. But anyways, hope that you guys have a fun week dreaming of the Itza-Kadoozie you never had and looking forward to getting to talk to you guys and deep dive into the past of the parks here the next couple episodes.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Oh, wait. Oh, you didn't do your D33. Club 33.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it's called.
What week is it? 4?
4.
Yeah, week 4 of me asking for anyone that has access to Club 33. Hit me up. I would love to come in as a guest. I'm curious what Club 33 is about, what it entails. I'm not going to do a long spiel this time because we've already gone over. So,
all right, that's the spiel. Have a great week. We'll see y'all next week.